dear participants, it's my honor to join the conference on the behalf of my dad, Professor Ibrahim, to present the role of international financial institutions in implementing Suez Canal area. The international financial institutions has to play a reliable role in financing the requirements of development for nations. The World Bank and International Monetary Funds plays integrated role as the World Bank finances long-term projects aiming to achieve structural changes, while the IMF targets to finance short-term deficits in balance of payment. This situation arises the following question: to what extent the international financial institutions assist developing countries to develop their mega projects on the shadow of the Suez Canal project? This question could be answered through discussing two major points. First, the Suez Canal project. Secondly, analyzing the behavior of World Bank and IMF towards developing countries. To start with the Suez Canal project. The Suez Canal project is divided into two complementary projects. First, expansion of the Suez Canal, which is partial duplication of the canal. Secondly, the Canal Area Development Project. The first part, which is the duplication of the canal, is aiming to increase the length of the canal to 72 kilometers and the depth to 66 feet. This enlargement will allow vessels to sail in both directions at the same time and will be able to serve 97 vessels instead of 49 on daily basis. Added to that, the waiting time for the vessel will be reduced. Also, we're planning to construct 6 new tunnels under the Suez Canal in the Ismailia port and Port Said cities. Each of those cities will have 2 new road tunnels and 1 rail tunnel. The estimated annual revenue of this project is $13 billion, while the expenses is only 60 billion Egyptian pounds, which is considered less than $10 billion. Okay. This map shows the current canal and the new canal. The second part of the project is the Suez Canal logistics area. There are 3 areas involved in constructions, which are Port Said, Ismailia, and Suez. We're developing several logistics activities as industrial zones, creating distribution centers, banking activities, call centers. Added to that, industrial areas and agriculture and fishing farms. When developing those activities, Egypt is going to benefit from diversification of the economic activities, increase in their competitiveness, and encourage more balanced distribution of growth regionally. Moreover, this project will help in reducing the unemployment rate, helping the enhancement of the standard of living. Okay. The second part is analyzing the behavior of the World Bank and the IMF towards the developing countries. Most of the developing countries have this equilibrium balance of payment, so they have to find an external source to settle their deficit. The external debt crisis became complicated due to 2 main reasons: external reasons and internal ones. External reasons as marketing foreign loans, protective tendency in industrial countries, and increase of the real interest rate. While the internal ones are weakness of production system, failure of industrial strategies, and commercial policies. The IMF and WB experts focus only on the internal reasons and seems to neglect the external ones. So they diagnose the developing countries' debt crisis as a result of applying expansion, fiscal policy, and monetary policy, resource allocation controlled by public sector, the government intervention in pricing leads to price distortion. Okay. Based on this diagnosis, the experts decided that the external debt crisis is an internal problem, and that the external causes are constant and the developing countries have to adjust to accept those causes. The IMF and WB strategies to treat the external debt crisis based on two programs. First, stabilization programs, which is supported by the IMF, and the structural adjustment program supported by the WB. The stabilization program focuses on devaluation, while the structural adjustment focuses on getting rid of the public sector. So, both programs integrated in policies and goals. The goals of both programs are: first, to guarantee the creditors' rights. Secondly, implementing the new international division of labor. How can these goals be realized? IMF experts' point of view is devaluation will lead to higher exports and lowering the imports. Therefore, it's easy to treat the balance of payment and get rid of the debts. But devaluation will not lead to increase the exports without price elasticity of demand for exports that must be elastic in order to allow greater increase in exports percentage than devaluation percentage. Secondly, the elasticity of export supply has to be great enough to meet potential demand increase. Finally, domestic price must be constant. Added to that, devaluation will not lead to import reduction without price elasticity of demand for imports must be elastic, and the import prices must be constant in terms of foreign currency. All of these conditions cannot be realized in developing countries and Egypt. So, why IMF experts insist to solve the external debt crisis through devaluation? Because stabilization program will complicate the financing problem for public sector, and available financial resources will be withdrawn from the public sector and presented to the private sector, which is considered to be more efficient. Thus, the public sector financing problem will get worse due to devaluation. The public sector will not afford financing the current investment and expenses. On the other hand, the structural adjustment program supported by the WB lead to stop subsidies offered to public sector to apply market mechanism. Price of public sector imports and exports will increase to international level. Then they evaluate the role of public sector accordingly to commercial profitability. And most of the public sector enterprises are considered as failed units. The WB stimulate the government to privatize the public sector. Since the local private sector does not afford to purchase the public sector, they advise developing countries to apply debt equity swap. So that's why they insist to devaluate the currencies of developing countries, as it will lead to increase in the number of shares in which creditors can obtain against their loans. So we can conclude that IMF and WB, now they are considered as creditors' agents, and they try to impose the globalization idea through controlling public sector. The conclusion: Egypt depended on local sources to finance the first part of the project, which is the new Suez Canal. And there is a need for direct foreign investment and the aid of international financial institutions to finance the second part of the project, which is Suez Canal area development. Finally, the World Bank has to directly finance and indirectly to support financing the infrastructure of the project. Thank you.